Probably most of my YouTube viewers have many times seen the radio scanner I use on my long-distance train trips and inquired about it. The most common inquiry I have is, what model do you use? But it's always years after the fact when the model can no longer be obtained, so I usually say, go buy some generic scanner, doesn't matter. But I find myself in the position of replacing my scanner, so I thought I would do a hopefully very brief video about it. By the way, my desk is adorned with my recently built Apollo 11. They make it specific to Apollo 11 lunar module made out of Legos. I did another video on that. And no, that's not the Lego Saturn V. That's in another room. This is the old Revell model. And this is the old Amazon box that used to have USB cables in it, but now holds my Uniden scanner when it's not in use. And this thing still works perfectly. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. The reason I'm trying to replace it, or have replaced it actually by the time I'm making this video, is that the programming software which I rely on to program this doesn't work with the newer computer I have. Since I've done those other videos, I've got a different computer, and the old software doesn't work. Plus, this was never that great anyway. I'm referring to the programming capability, not the basic scanner. It had this proprietary cable which adapted USB to the proprietary plug, and there's some sort of electronics in the cable here. And there was this ArcSoft software which I had obtained from the place I bought the scanner, and it just simply would not work under Windows 10. It didn't work properly. I could load it, but it didn't ever seem to communicate, so I figured there was an issue there. And this is one of those from the dark ages where, even though it was plugged into a USB port, the computer regarded it as a serial port, and so was always looking for which COM port are you using and so on. And I just have my travel pack here, which includes a AC power adapter and a set of batteries and the antennas that I use for the train trips. And I also have a printed out list of frequencies for different Amtrak trains, just as a backup. But along with my software went the files that I had for all of this. So I'm going to have to reconstruct those. I think I'm going to put them in a permanent Excel file as a backup instead of the proprietary format that the ArcSoft software uses. But at least I have a recording here of what the frequencies were for all the different train trips I've taken so far. And then I've even got the reference copy of my cheat sheet. I've referenced that in my video about things I take on my trips. And this is my this is actually a BC95 XLT is the model of scanner I had, and this was just in case I do have to use the buttons. It's a short form of how to use it, and then of course the operator's manual. And before I go any further, I'll put in a bit of a plug here, something I don't usually do, but in this case there's a company on the East Coast of the US called Scanner Master that I've used over the years, not only for my own personal stuff, but in a few other instances for organizations I'm involved with, selecting and sourcing scanners. This is, as they say, the nation's oldest and largest scanner-only dealer. It's not a very big company, but you don't need to be if you're just selling scanners. I found them to be knowledgeable and provide good service, so I'm just saying. It's scannermaster.com, and that is where I bought the old one. That's where I bought the old software, and that's where I bought my new one, which is again a Uniden model. Now Uniden is also Bearcat these days, so you may see the same model listed under Bearcat, and it's just a portable scanner. It's the BC 125AT, and it's very similar in capabilities to my old one, although it's just newer. And you may ask, why didn't I just buy the new software? And I think I could have. I didn't actually need to buy a new scanner. I could have just bought the new software, and I think it would have supported the old scanner. But I decided one of the things about the old scanner I didn't like, and otherwise it was perfectly good, was that I always found the display quite hard to read. And I kind of thought, well, these scanners aren't very expensive, so while I'm going through the bother of buying new software, I might as well just drop a few more dollars and buy a new scanner with a better display, and start using that on train trips. Anyway, so I'm not trying to make this into an unboxing video. I really am just trying to do it to try to answer the question which is so often asked of me regarding my train videos, in particular, which scanner do you use, or which scanner would you use if you had to buy one now? And this, I think, answers the question. There is another Uniden scanner with a slightly different part number, and it costs, I don't know, $20 less or something. And it is, I think it's been discontinued, but it still shows up on a lot of places. And when I checked the specifications with Scanner Master, where they actually went into the details of the specs, I realized that other one would not do what I wanted. It did not have enough memory to store all the train frequencies that I was interested in storing. So this, once again, BC 125AT is the model closest to the one that I already had. And the inevitable question will be, how much did it cost? And the BC 125AT from Scanner Master was $152.40. I'm sorry, that included the ArcSoft ARC 125 software. The actual scanner was, I think, more like $125, and then we added another $25 or so for the software. And by the time you throw in shipping and handling, it got up to $162. But the basic scanner is only like $120, $125. And the price Scanner Master listed for it was, I think, the same exact amount that Amazon listed for it. So I think the price is competitive. So they do provide a printed manual, thank goodness. I really hate it when I buy new equipment and they don't come with a manual. There's a lanyard there. There's the USB cable. And unlike the old scanner, the new scanner actually is a USB device. And it looks like it has the mini USB type plug on it. And they give you a couple of AA batteries, which is what it takes. You can use, I think, rechargeables, or, and this does come with rechargeables, but it will run on regular AA alkalines as well. And a rubber ducky antenna, which I'll unbag here in a moment. And the scanner itself. And there's nothing else in the box. And here's a size comparison. The two units are just about identical in size. same size, height, width, depth, within just a small fraction of an inch. Now, one thing that I wasn't crazy about, and they did explain it to me when I was preparing to order this, is there's one knob fewer on the new unit. The old one had a squelch and a volume knob in addition to the earphone jack and the antenna connector, and this knob is a three-way control. It allows you to set the frequency, set the volume, and set the squelch all with one knob. So instead of potentiometers inside like this would have been, it's going to have a rotary encoder of some sort, and depending on which buttons you push on the keypad, that will determine which function this knob has. Now, I haven't read the manual yet, but they did say that for squelch you have to push the function button, and that's the orange button, and so the squelch cue there is also orange, and this is a pushable button, so it's a switch and a button. And apparently if you just turn it, then it changes your frequency, and if you push it and turn it, then it's volume. If you push the orange button and turn it, then it's squelch. So not really that hard to use, just a little bit different. The old unit had on the side of it a barrel connector for power, and then its proprietary serial communications port, which they called the remote control. And on the new one, it's got a single connector, which is again just the, I believe that's the mini USB plug. Little, more or less, not quite waterproof, but dustproof port, and that's really all there is on it. There's no other plugs other than the earphone, headphone jack on top. Just as with the older scanner, the battery area is on the bottom rear of the scanner housing, and on here there is a, you can kind of make out the text there, alkaline nickel metal hydride, and a small selector switch buried in the battery compartment, so you have to select which type of cells you're using there. And I've selected the alkaline position since that's what I plan to use in here. I rarely run it off of batteries, and when I do, it's going to be regular alkalines. I don't use the scanner enough to bother charging up a set of nickel metal hydrides, so for the relatively few moments of use I'm going to have it where it's unpowered, a set of AA's to me is more accessible and less bother. So there's that. And so there I've got the rubber ducky on top, and let's see. What do I have to do to make it light up? Do I have to push the button? Oops, that's power. I may have to actually read the manual. One thing that Scanner Master will do for you, by the way, is if you have a bunch of frequencies that you already know, perhaps you're using this for police radio listening and you know all those frequencies, you can provide that to them and they will program it in here as a service for a small nominal fee before they send it to you. But I didn't do that because mostly all I use it for is train videos, and I'm going to program it myself. I'm just setting the backlighting now. Yeah, that was accessed by pushing the function button and then the power button. And then everything else is done as a menu structure using this knob on the top. Turn it to select and push it to engage. So let's see. So it's changing the contrast. It's just kind of hard to do this with not enough hands. So you can see as you turn it, the contrast changes. All channels locked. I don't have this programmed for anything in particular at this time. Just hoping to get lucky. Here's the ArcSoft software, which doesn't mention ArcSoft on it anywhere. I think it used to be called ArcSoft, but this says it's Butel software. Anyway, right there. And, oh yeah, the Netherlands. I knew it was in Europe somewhere. Those viewers who've watched my train videos know that I usually plug my scanner in and connect it permanently during the course of the train trip to the AC outlet in my room. Now, if I were to be in coach, for example, or in the lounge car and I wanted to use the scanner, which I normally don't do, then I could plug in headphones. You actually pretty much need to do that. They're not going to allow you to listen to the scanner with the speaker on in the public parts of the train. So you really do need headphones for that, or earbuds or something comparable. But and for that you'd use the battery power. But this little short cord that comes with this particular BC125AT scanner is much too short to reach from the AC power outlet to a good place for putting the scanner. So to that end, I purchased, that's either 6 or 8 feet long, USB-A to USB mini cable, and a generic universal AC, meaning it'll run from, in this case, 100 to 240 volts, 50-60 hertz, and that has a single USB-A socket on it. So this would replace this power supply on my older scanner. Just plug it in like this, and the other end will go into the radio, like that. And the same cable can be used for programming the radio by simply unplugging the USB-A end and plugging it into a USB socket on your personal computer. Okay, I've got my ArcSoft 125 or ARC 125 software going here, and it has 10 banks. This one is matched. This version of the software is matched to this type of radio, and it only has 10 banks. The software only has 10 banks. Although the old radio I had with the old ArcSoft had 10 banks, there was only 20 frequencies per bank. And on this radio, and hence on the software, let's see if I can figure out how to scroll this thing here. There we go. 50 frequencies per bank. Now that's not terribly useful in my opinion for Amtrak frequencies, because there usually aren't more than 20 per any given train route by the time you delete the duplications. And there's also some additional things in here. There's mode and a PL, DPL, but the delay time, lockout, priority, that kind of thing, the frequency is about the same. Now what I've got here is I've built in Excel, and I did this a while back, I have no longer relied upon the ArcSoft to keep my database of frequencies. So I've just built in Excel here a thing I call Train Freaks, and it has different tabs. I can also use this for my local police and fire, although I almost never use it that way, but I do have a tab for that that corresponds with one bank. I've got the Empire Builders, Southwest Chief, Texas Eagle, Via Rail Canadian, California Zephyr, Cardinal, Coast Starlight, and then some more that are, I have to scroll over to view them. So let's take a look at the Empire Builder here, and I've got 20 frequencies set up here. I've got a column that corresponds to the nominal channel number inside the radio, 1 through 500. That's 10 banks at 50 frequencies or 50 channels per bank. So I've got them numbered correspondingly. I've got the frequencies out to 4 decimal points. I've got the delay set to 2, and there's a meaning for that, which you could refer to the manual to find out what it is, but it's the default. It's a 2-second delay to keep the radio from overreacting. Is a good starting value. And I think on the old radio, if you turned the delay on, you couldn't adjust it, but if you turned it on, it was 2 seconds also. The lockout is off, meaning I'm not locking out any frequencies, and you have to pick one channel in each bank to be the priority channel, and I always just pick the first one. It could be any of them. All that means is it's going to stay on that one a little longer, and you know, I don't want to get into the weeds too much on this, but I put the bank number, the date I revised this. If I go into OnTrack Online and update it, I update that date. And if I did need more than 20 frequencies, since I could have up to 50, I can always add more, but right now they're all 20. If I go to the Southwest Chief, there's 20. Texas Eagle, there's actually only 19 frequencies, at least per my last update in 2015. The Canadian only used 16, and so on. So what I need to do here is copy and paste these numbers into the corresponding banks in the ARC software, and that's a simple copy and paste maneuver. I'm going to start with bank 1. I'm going to copy my frequencies here and just do a Control-C in Windows to copy it to the clipboard. I go into my ArcSoft, make sure I'm on bank 1, and I click here and do a Control-V, and it pastes all those frequencies in there. Going back to my database, I actually have tags identifying what these are. I usually don't do that for the trains. And I could have done 2 columns at once, but I'm being very deliberate here. So that's in there. And then I'm not worried about the mode or the PL, DPL, but the other ones I have to put in there. So I'm going to select 3 columns at once here. Control-C. And voila. So I've got this bank populated as much as it needs to be populated. And likewise, I've got bank 2. It's not real easy on here to tell which bank you've got selected. This is not very well done. It's only subtly different looking for the tab that you've got. It almost looks like all the other ones. It's just very, very subtle. And the only way I can be sure that I'm on the right bank is to click it to make sure that I'm really on it. So I use the same system as with the local police and fire to put in bank 2, which again happens to be for the Empire Builder. Alright, so I'm up to bank 10 here, but I don't have anything to put in it. I go back over bank 9, bank 8, bank 7, bank 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So those are all in there. I'm going to click Save. And I've got it in a My Document Scanner Database folder. And I think that's just going to make an RS data file, which I think is the same thing. RSF file, so already exists. Copy it over. And let's see. Yes, it's now 7:10, so that's updated. So that's good. So the next thing is to try to get all this into the radio. Well, the scanner manual doesn't address programming it from a program such as the ArcSoft. It doesn't mention that you can even do it, really. So it should be pretty intuitive, and I see here that there's an up and a down button, but without any definition as to what that is. Uploads and downloads are usually in reference to something. Well, that's shift line up, that's not the same thing. Oh, here we go. Read, okay, read from the scanner, send to the scanner. I'm used to dealing with industrial control software where if it says up and down like that, it often means upload and download, so I gravitated to that, but here is something more intuitive. So I just need to plug in my USB cable. Okay, as soon as I plugged the cable in, it says charge off. I don't know what that means. Oh, it's charge off because I've got alkaline batteries in there, so it's not trying to charge. Pretty sure that's what it means. Now if I turn the power on, setting up device. So I think that's all it needed to do. And it's searching bank 2 right now. If I go up to the software and click send to radio, let's see what happens here. Upload to scanner. Do I want to do all the banks? Oh, the device is ready. I can select all of them on, all of them off, select them individually. I want to, I don't know what that even means. Search banks 1 through 10, frequencies banks, I don't know. I'm going to leave the settings just as they are. And it says USB port select. I have no idea which one's which. Auto detect scanner, I think I'll leave that there. Open device manager. Yeah. USB serial device, COM3. Now let's see what happens if I just pick COM1 and try it. Remote load keypad lock. It is sending the frequencies there, so I guess I guessed correctly. It's almost done. I'm going to go back to here. Okay. So already it has fire dispatch, which is something I programmed in on bank 1. So, let's see here. I can turn the bank is reflected by the bottom of the display here. Sorry for the reflection. I can also turn on bank 2 by pushing button 2. I had to push the scan button first to put it in scan mode, and now it shows which bank is being scanned, and it kind of ripples through them, as you can see there, both on the line of banks at the bottom and up here. If I want to turn off the various banks, and let's see here, yeah, if I want to turn off the various banks, gosh, it's hard to get a good view on here, there's so much reflection. Sorry about that. Let's see, I can turn off bank 2 by just pushing the 2 button. Bank 3, bank 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's only looking at bank 1 at this point. I think the 0 key, even though it just says 0, that's actually bank 10. As identified up here, there is no bank 0, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be. So, let's see how the squelch works. I'm going to unplug this since I don't need the USB connection anymore. And I'm going to hold down the power button. Oops, I turned it off. Okay, it's back on. It's back to scanning bank 1. And the light button is red, so I have to push function and power. And that gets me into this mode, which is not what I wanted to do. I have to turn the knob here and get out of this. I didn't want to do this. My problem was I wasn't fast enough with the button. I don't need a function for that. It's just a quick tap. There we go. This may look a little better. Anyway, it's scanning bank 1, but there's no activity now. But maybe the squelch is turned up too high. So I have to look up at the top of the scanner, and that squelch requires the function button. So I'll push the function button, and that little F lights up in the corner. So that should mean that I'm adjusting the squelch here. Oop, the function turned off. I can't do this while holding the camera. Okay, back to this. So I push the function button, function indicator turns on, then I have to push down the knob, and now it gives me the squelch level, or that's the volume level. Yeah, you push it down once, and now you can adjust the volume level, and push it again when you're happy with it. Push down the function button while pushing down the button, and now you get the squelch level. So pushing the function button and holding it while I push down the knob gives me the squelch level. So right now squelch is turned pretty far down. Turn up just a little bit. Push it again to... I'm going to push it down here and turn my volume level up.
It will be transported.
So there's a little bit of fire activity there. Maybe there will be more. Well, I'm not going to sit here all day waiting for them to say something else. The scanner is clearly working, at least on one frequency. I can't check any of the train channels because I'm nowhere near a train right at the moment. So I'm going to have to wait till I actually take my next train trip to test this out thoroughly. I may pack the old scanner along just in case. But I think this will serve as a brief introduction to...
Great Lake Ambulance 271 returning.
Oh, there we go.
Great Lake Ambulance 271 returning.
Okay. I think it serves as an introduction to how to buy and select, program, and basically use a small scanner like this without going into the weeds too far. Of course, I still can program, modify, delete whatever the frequencies that need to be changed without using the software. The software is by no means an imperative here. If you've got the patience and want to poke through, you can certainly do it all through the keypad. It's not that hard. The problem is it's just unintuitive enough that I have trouble remembering how to do it as infrequently as I use this. So I much prefer doing it in the software, and then it gives me a way to back it up very easily, and I think it's just easier that way as long as I've got the computer.
Boy, ladder 272, engine 261, and battalion 27, fire alarm, 205 Commerce Drive, Great Lake, ladder 272, engine 261, and battalion 27, fire alarm, 205 Commerce Drive, Great Lake, near North Corporate Circle, time out, 2032.
Engine 212's been en route. Engine 212's been en route. Second copy, copy. Engine ambulance 211 en route. Engine ambulance 211 en route. Right down, you had 2101 to that pump. 2101 message received.
You could see there what the two in the delay setting that we looked at earlier, that's 2 seconds of delay. When there's no more transmission for 2 seconds, then it's allowed to resume scanning. In other words, it holds on that frequency.
Great Lake General Fire Alarm. Robert G. Kovac Medical Building, 205 Commerce Drive. Ladder 272, engine 261. Gurney will be due with an engine. Battalion 27, you'll be due. Great Lake Fire Alarm. Robert J. Kovac Medical Building, 205 Commerce Drive. Ladder 272, engine 261. Gurney engine, Battalion 27, you're due.
CENTCOM, engine 212 location, large commercial structure, nothing showing. We're going to be in the rear, out investigating all incoming units, switch to red fire ground upon arrival. Engine 212 on scene, large industrial, nothing showing in the rear, all units switch to red on arrival. Battalion 27 is around. Battalion 27 is en route. Latitude 271 route.
1, 2, and it resumes scanning.
Last unit with traffic en route. Can you repeat your coverage? 72. Engine 271 en route. Engine 271, you're en route. Ladder 272 is en route.
Trying to demonstrate how the hold button works as soon as this quiets down.
Ladder 272 is you're en route.
I can push hold, it lights up hold, and then it will not scan, it will just stay on this frequency indefinitely. But if I want to, while it's on hold, I can turn the knob and make adjustments in the frequency like that, and pushing hold again releases it so it can scan again.
enough units. The fire is going to be in the northeast corner.
There's also a scan button here, which I think does the same thing as pushing hold again.
SATCOM engine 211, South Sea. 211 on scene.
Yeah, pushing the scan button resumes scanning also. So hold toggles scanning on and off. If it's on hold, pushing scan also resumes scanning. While it's on hold, turning the single knob allows changing frequencies manually. If there's a transmission that's going on for a long time and you want to force the scanner to continue scanning, even though the transmission would normally hold it on the current frequency, you can push the SRCH, or the search button, which would, let's see if I can get them to say something again here. This actually just tells it to search for anything, and doesn't even strictly, you can see that it's lit up all the bands there. So it's looking far and wide. But I can push scan again to force it to go back to the band or bands I've currently got turned on. Once again, if I want to scan bands 1 and 2, I just push the 2 button while it's scanning. And now it goes 1 and 2, you know, it just ripples through all of them. I'll turn 2 back off. So hold holds, and it can be used to resume scanning. Scan forces it to resume scanning. Search tells it to stop scanning just the bank and search everything for the first transmission it finds. And then function SVC, which stands for service, tells it to switch to some pre-selected bands on the radio, which you don't program yourself. These are in things like police, fire and emergency, ham radio, marine, railroad, civil air, military air, CB radio, racing frequencies, and so on. If you don't know the frequencies in your area for those things, you can always try going into these bands here.
SATCOM engine, ambulance 211, clear returning.
So that's what those buttons do.
Engine, ambulance 211, clear returning.
And this is lockout. So for example, if there's a particular frequency that keeps popping up that's just annoying, maybe there's nothing really on it, but there's some loud static, and the radio reacts to that and keeps holding it on that station, you can say, well, even though that frequency is part of the bank that I'm trying to scan, for some reason that, you know, one frequency is annoying, so you can, when it's on that one, you can push the LO button and lock it out. And you may recall when we were using the ARC software that there was a column for lockout, so you could, you know, tell it in there to lock it out, or if you uploaded from the radio into the ArcSoft and a particular channel was locked out, it'll show up as locked out in the ArcSoft as well. So that's what that's for, and then you can push it again to resume scanning, or to unlock that channel out. So I think that's the majority of the features. There's some other little bells and whistles on here that I'm not going to go into, but that's the crux of the basic scanner operation. So I want to amend what I just said about the lockout.
43 back in quarters.
I want to lock this guy out. I just tap it once, and it says temporary lockout. It went very briefly, and now it disappeared. So now it's scanning all the other frequencies.
Bridge Lake Ladder 272 returning.
Now this is on channel 2 there. That one's going on. I'm going to lock that one out too. So now there's 2 locked out channels. If I turn the radio off, and then back on, it's back to scanning again, and there are no locked out frequencies, because a brief push of the LO button is a temporary lockout which is cleared by turning the radio off. A double tap on the lockout, if there was a frequency that was currently displayed, then it would be a permanent lockout which must be deliberately turned off. It won't be turned off by turning the radio off and back on. To get rid of the permanent locks, it's necessary to push the function button and hold it down, and then push the program button, which gets me into a menu, and then I can scroll up and down and unlock all channels. I push the knob down, confirm unlock all channels. Yes, I have to push the letter E. So all channels should be locked out. And then there's this clear button which cancels the menu I was in. I'm going to go back to scanning, and I'm back into it there. But now there's no activity, so it's not saying anything.
And 242, you're back in district.
In my page layout program, which is Page Plus X9 by Serif, it's a discontinued program, the latest version of a discontinued program by Serif in the UK, but it still works on my newer Windows 10 machine, seems to work perfectly, so I continue to use it. I've got so many forms and templates and other things that are done using this that I don't see much advantage to switching to another program as long as this one works. Anyway, so I've updated my old BC, what was the old one? The BC95XLT scanner. I had a little reference card that I carried around with it in case I did need to change the programming or do something and I was away from the instruction manual. So I've done one for the BC125AT. I just highlight a few things, you know, how to hold and unhold, how to resume scanning, how to search the canned bands for things like police and fire and so on, how to do a temporary lockout and to clear it, the buttons that are used for entering frequencies into channels and for programming, basic display indicators that appear for function, temporary lockout, permanent lockout, and hold. I have a little table to quickly identify which channel numbers go with which banks. And then on the flip side, page 2, I've got a very abbreviated step-by-step for how to enter a frequency into a specific channel, so I can do a little programming if I have to. A reminder that to start scanning, I push the scan button, how to manually select a channel and or review a programmed channel, how to turn banks on and off, and how to deal with locking out channels permanently and how to unlock them once they've been locked out. The temporary lockout is done by cycling power, but you can also do it this way by pressing hold, entering the channel number to be unlocked, pushing hold again, then the lockout button. Anyway, so I figured those are the most important things that need to be on this card. And not right now, but later on I'm going to do the same thing I did with the old radio, print it out both sides of a piece of paper, cut it out, and use my plastic laminator to laminate it for durability. Or I may just print it on some of my print to last paper, which has a similar effect, but I think I like the extra thickness that comes from laminating it between two sheets of plastic. So I'll do that when I feel like getting that machine out of storage. So that's the back side, and there's the front side. It's ready to go as soon as I cut it out and then laminate it. Anyway, so I'm going to conclude with this, that people keep asking, what kind of scanner do you use? And now this is the scanner I'm going to be using, barring some catastrophe with it. Hope you found this useful.